Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the Orange Chamber of Commerce 2014 Candidates Forum for Orange City Council and for Mayor. This forum is being broadcast live and taped for future broadcast on our local cable channel by Chapman University. Thank you to Chapman. My name is Trevor O'Neill. I'm the chairman of the board for the Orange Chamber of Commerce and chair of the Legislative Action Committee as well. I'm also a business owner and property owner here in Orange, and I'll be moderating tonight's forum for you. Our timekeeper tonight is Adam Gus, fellow business owner and also a member of the Chamber Board of Directors. All the candidates for City Council and Mayor were invited to attend this forum, and those who are here have chosen to participate. Of the candidates seated before us, 2 are running for mayor, and the remaining candidates are vying for 2 seats on the City Council. Candidates, the questions I'll ask you tonight have been prepared by the Orange Chamber Legislative Action Committee. After I ask each question, I'll call upon each one of you individually for a response. I will make every effort to mix up the order of the responses so there is no unfair advantaging in the sequencing of the responses. I'll also repeat each question periodically through the responses. To keep on schedule, we have to be very strict on the time that we've been allotted, and I'll inform you of the allotted time after I ask you the question. And as you're speaking, when 30 seconds is remaining in your response, our timekeeper will hold up this yellow 30-second sign so you can wrap it up, and when the time is expired, he'll indicate with your red sign. For those of you in attendance, due to time constraints, we won't have an opportunity for questions from the floor during the broadcast. However, you're more than welcome to stay after the forum and speak with the candidates individually. Are there any questions from the candidates? Very good, then let's begin. So candidates, first, I'd like to give you all an opportunity to introduce yourselves. Please make an opening statement, tell us a little bit about yourself, your occupation, your qualifications for this position, and why you're running for City Council. Adam, let's have 2 minutes, please. And Tita Smith, you give us our first response, please.
Thank you, Trevor. Well, my name is Teresa Smith, but I most commonly go by the name Tita. I'm very proud to be the mayor of my hometown. It's an absolute joy to be in service to our community. I'm so thrilled that our family has been here for 5 generations in Orange, with both sets of my grandparents coming here by choice in the 1920s, and now my husband and I are able to enjoy our grandchildren here in the city of Orange. The thrill of being the mayor of your hometown is just something only a few people have experienced in Orange, and the best part about it is to enjoy our prosperous, vibrant, community-oriented city, and to know that we are in a safe place, our public safety is wonderful, and that our businesses thrive and have equal opportunity, and that there's a place for everyone in every neighborhood in Orange. I would be honored to serve again as your mayor. I am committed to keeping us a safe community, to protecting our taxpayers, to increasing our financial status, to continue our strong public safety program, property values being at a good place, and also want to look more about opportunities for new businesses in Orange and always creating more jobs. And I'm very grateful to the Chamber for sponsoring this evening where we can all share and become better acquainted with you, our community.
Very good, thank you so much. Also running for mayor, Mr. Eugene Fields.
Good evening. Thank you to the Orange Chamber of Commerce for hosting tonight's Candidates Forum and for allowing me to be a part of it. I'm very grateful and honored to be here. My name is Eugene Fields. I'm running for mayor. The slogan of my campaign is in November, vote for number 2 on the ballot for a different point of view. That's exactly what I offer the residents of this incredible city, a different point of view on how to serve you as the next mayor. I was not fortunate to be born and raised in the city of Orange. I was born and raised in the city of Los Angeles by a single mother who worked 2 jobs. She worked as a school librarian at the elementary school I went to, and then she worked in the Los Angeles Public Library System. We moved a lot. Moved 10 times before I turned 18. 5 of those years were spent moving, running away from an abusive stepfather. I moved to the city very recently with my lovely wife because of the love that I found for the city for 5 years covering it as a reporter for the Register. 20 years with friends and family here. I love the city so much that my wife and I recently got married right down the street to a family who opened up their homes to us. And I'm grateful to share that love with my wife. She was born and raised in small town Oklahoma, and this reminds her of the city she grew up in. I'm not a business owner, a lawyer, corporate executive, or polished politician. I'm a communication specialist and a journalist by trade. The issues of fee increases, public safety concerns, facility improvements in the school district, and unfunded pensions directly affect my family, and I was moved to become a candidate for mayor to offer a different point of view. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. Next, we'll hear from Mr. John Dimitru.
Good evening. My name is John Dimitru, and first my thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting the forum this evening to help inform voters in the upcoming November election. I'm very proud to have been born here and raised right here in the city of Orange, and I've had the honor of previously serving as Mayor Pro Tem and as a City Council member. I decided to run again because now more than ever, we need strong leaders to address the serious challenges that we face as a city. We need leaders who will put progress over partisanship, and we don't need politicians that are more concerned with political gain than instead of doing what's best for the city of Orange. We need and deserve leaders we can trust and who'll do the right things here in the city of Orange. In my time on council, I believe I did just that. I supported and defended our neighborhoods and protected the quality of life that makes Orange such a special place to live. I spearheaded the city trash contract to be put through the bid process for the first time in the city's history, and we now have the third lowest rates in the county of Orange. I spearheaded and passed the most restrictive sex offender ordinances dealing with the predators that are placed here in the city of Orange by the state of California, and those ordinances have been adopted by cities nationwide. I also led the way to reduce government red tape so businesses could expand, new businesses could come here and start up and create jobs for folks that are looking for work that live here in the city of Orange and our surrounding neighbors. Also in my previous time on the City Council, I was proud to take part with my colleagues to open 3 new parks and major remodels of 2 other parks. We kept our water department solvent, we reduced traffic congestion, increased our city of Orange financial stability and portfolio. I'm very proud of the work we've done, and my connection to the city of Orange is lifelong. I look forward to, again, hopefully, come November, being your choice for the City Council, serving you, the community, and being accessible to solve problems that sometimes seem to get delayed by government and red tape. I look forward to it, and my name again is John Dimitru, and I'm a candidate for City Council here in the city of Orange. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dimitru. Mr. Ray Grangoff, your introduction, please.
Thank you, and I thank the Chamber for hosting this forum tonight, and appreciate all of you that are here, and for those of you that are watching at home. You know, I'm an Orange resident by choice. This is a great city. For those of you that, you know, have lived here for a long time, you know what a great city it is. It's a small town, it's a big city with over 140,000 residents, but it does have a small town feel. It's why the motto is a slice of Old Town charm. And that's why I live here and why I want to stay here, why I want to have a family here. But if we're going to keep Orange the way it is, there are some things that I think we can do differently at City Hall, or some things maybe we could more accurately do better at City Hall. And that's why I'm running. And there's mainly 2 things that I'd want to focus on as your council member. The first thing would be that I think an issue all local government face is the rising cost of government. Those costs increase as revenue stays the same or declines. So if we want to be able to provide basic services, public safety, infrastructure, we really need to think outside of the box and look at ways where we can make government more efficient, look at ways where we're going to have to provide services in a different way. Maybe it's services aren't provided in-house, maybe they're contracted out. So that's definitely something that I would bring to the table and want to focus on. Secondly, the business community. We can help our city budget by increasing revenue with a thriving business community. I think there's some things we can do to make the city environment more welcoming to business using free market values. So those are the 2 reasons why I'm running. I have a background in public policy as a manager for the Sheriff's Department and former aide to county supervisor. So I have the experience to do the job, and I look forward to answering your questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grangoff. Ms. Kim Nichols, your response, please.
Thank you, and thank you also to the Chamber for giving us an opportunity to be here this evening. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm qualified and the best candidate for your next City Council member. My roots have been in Orange for nearly 50 years. My family moved here in 1965. I attended OUSD schools 1st grade through 12th. I graduated from El Medina, Santa Ana College, and Cal State Fullerton. I am married. I've been married for 31 years, and my husband and I have lived in Orange and bought our home in 1984. We've been here 30 years and raised our 3 children here. All my children went through OUSD schools, and all are in college or graduated from college. I am a small business owner in the city of Orange. I own and operate Cyrano's Cafe, and as such, I totally understand the challenges of running a business. I have a long history of community service, including youth sports, PTA, legislative advocate for OUSD, both elected and appointed. I graduated from Leadership Orange, and I'm one of the founding members of Junior Leadership Orange. I've served on many boards, including treasurer for lots of organizations, and I understand the importance of collaboration and how to work through issues. On the public service front, I was elected to serve on the OUSD School Board in 2001, and I served there for 9 years. I operated a $250 million budget, and it was very turbulent times, but we were able to stabilize the district. Two of those terms I served as president. I'm currently the president of the Orange Public Library Foundation, and I've been on the board since 2002. My community spirit experience has provided me with a broad perspective of our city and has allowed me to meet and serve residents of the entire City of Orange. I'm excited to be running for the City Council. I believe my professional background, my public service experience will be a valuable asset to the city. With an open seat available, I felt it was a perfect time to do so. I can provide new ideas, experience, strong leadership, and I have worked through challenging times in my previous elected position. I hope for your support in November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. And Councilman Fred Whitaker, your introduction, please.
Thank you, Trevor. Thanks to the Chamber as well for hosting this event tonight. My first community involvement in Orange is actually being on the Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and on the Economic Development Partnership over 20 years ago. So we love this community. We first came to the community 25 years ago, married my lovely wife at Covenant Presbyterian in 1989 here in Orange. All 3 of our children were born here. And we've been involved in the community. I've served over 6 years as chairman of the school board at St. John's Lutheran Church, served on the Santiago Canyon College Foundation Board, the Orange Community Foundation Board, as well as being 4 years on the Planning Commission before being elected as your city councilman in 2010. When we came onto the council in 2010, we were in basically year 2 of our deep recession. We've been in essentially almost 7 years. In 2007, we had about $96 million in revenue, and in 2008, we dropped $19 million in 1 year. We then recovered now in 2014 all the way back to $96 million in revenue. Over 3 different councils, your city council has been very prudent in how they've managed the finances of this city. I'm proud of my leadership involved in that role, whether it was restructuring the finances of the water company to save it from insolvency, whether it was everything that we've done over 3 years of negotiations to have all of our unions pay the maximum share of their pensions, balancing the budget, getting a new captain for our police department that actually funds 2 additional positions. I'm proud of what we've done, and I hope that you consider me for re-election.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Now, we all know from your introductions that you are all very active and involved with the community, but one thing that I did not hear a lot about that I would like to is what's your occupation? What's your day job? City Council is a once-a-month meeting, far from being a full-time gig. So, let's go through the same response, and please tell us a little bit more detail about who you are and what you do. Mayor Smith.
And how much time on that term?
1 minute, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm very honored to be the executive director of a large social service agency in our county called Catholic Charities of Orange County. It's a 38-year-old agency that serves people in need, not only the poor, but those who are looking for other services to improve the quality of their life. I'm also a wife of 46 years to Mr. Bill Smith, who many of you know and love like I do. I'm also a daughter to my 89-year-old dad, Gene Smith, the founder of Orange Little League. I'm also the mom to 4 kids and the grandmother of 6. And so just my family and my day job keep me plenty busy. And I'm very thrilled to have all of those jobs.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fields?
I'm excited to be the communication specialist for American Technologies Incorporated. It's a business born in Orange. They're celebrating their 25th anniversary. It's the 3rd largest private restoration contractor in the nation. And I also continue my journalistic pursuits. I'm a freelance journalist for multiple newspapers and outlets across the country. I'm a newlywed. I am actually on the better half of this deal because my lovely wife, Tonda, keeps me going. I have 2 daughters, and I'm looking forward to possibly adding a 3rd child.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. Mr. Dimitru?
Thank you, Trevor. My day job, actually, first, the city council is not a part-time job. I'll tell you right off the bat, it's actually very, very full-time. Everybody that serves time, whether it's Mayor Smith or Councilman Whitaker or Councilman Murphy or Alvarez, spend a lot of their free time answering questions and helping folks out all the time, as did I in my previous time. But I've been 24 years now with the Orange County Fire Authority. I'm in the Emergency Command Center. So I help coordinate firefighter resources throughout not only Orange County, but throughout the state and the western region, from aircraft, firefighters, hand crews, and get deployed quite a bit, especially during lightning storms up to Northern California and Redding to help with fire suppression. During the off time, when it's not fire season, I'm also delivering babies, helping people that have overdosed through 911 and giving instructions and telling basically a person that has never dealt with a medical emergency ever in their life what to use in their house, kind of like MacGyver, finding things and putting it to use to help save lives.
Thank you. Mr. Grangoff?
Yes. Thanks. As I indicated in my opening statement, I work as the government relations manager for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. It's a really great job. I get to work directly for someone who I believe is an exceptional elected official serving the people of Orange County, Sheriff Hutchins. Primary part of my job is to make sure that the initiatives of the Sheriff Department, when they go before the Board of Supervisors or before different city councils that contract with us, that they're all well briefed and up to speed on what's going on. So it really gives me a great insight into the public safety issues of the day, and I get to work hand in hand with the men and women of the department, and it's just a great experience I'm very fortunate to have.
Thank you. Ms. Nichols, you mentioned your business that you have, but if you'd like to take this time and elaborate or speak to anything else related.
A little support of my business, but I am a registered nurse by profession, but I, for the last 4 years, have been running Cyrano's Cafe. It's in the eastern part of the city, behind the Pacific Ranch Market. We are open for breakfast and lunch, and it's more than a full-time job, I have to tell you. Yeah, we're open from 7 to 5, Monday through Friday, and 7 to 2 on Saturdays and Sundays. We only close 2 days out of the year, so it's more than a full-time job.
Chapman University will accept the royalties for the advertising. Mr. Whitaker, please.
Thanks, Trevor. I'm the managing partner of the law firm of Cummins & White. We have 18 lawyers, another 18 full-time support staff, and some other part-time people. So we act as outside general counsel to privately held companies. I focus on mergers and acquisitions, corporate finance, governance. We do also commercial real estate transactions. I've been a lawyer now for almost 25 years. Part of that time I was an executive at SC Fuels, who's the largest sales tax provider here in the city of Orange. I enjoy what I do. It's problem solving. It's trying to bring people together to make things happen. And I use those skills when I'm here on the city council, both in negotiation and understanding finance.
Thank you so much. On with the tough questions. Ladies and gentlemen, Forbes recently ranked California as the worst state in the nation for business. We see evidence of this with the recent departure of companies like Toyota, Tesla, Chevron, who've left for other states. Many businesses, however, don't have the option to leave California because of the local nature of their products or services or their customer base. So what measures would you propose to help attract and retain businesses, both large and small, to the city of Orange? And what steps would you take to make Orange more business-friendly compared to our neighboring cities? And we'll have responses in 1 minute. And we'll begin with my randomized response sequence, which is Ms. Nichols.
Okay, so much for the notes. We are encumbered by fees and regulations as business owners, and I think the first thing that we needed to do is to look at what those are and what we can do as a city to address what business owners have to, the hoops that they need to jump through in order to be able to bring a new business into the city. Also, helping those businesses without creating roadblocks to them as they go through the process, so that we can aid and assist them in actually supporting their businesses rather than actually throwing roadblocks in front of them. Having been through the process when we were filing for permits, we experienced our own set of roadblocks, and I think I've had personal experience with that, and I think that's one area that I bring to the table as a small business owner where I can think outside the box because I'm actually experiencing it myself.
Thank you. Mr. Fields, would you respond next, please?
This is something I definitely can relate to. My wife works for Cox Communications, and she was impacted because they closed 7 of their 19 call centers around the nation, including the one in Rancho Santa Margarita. So she's been traveling all across the country to train people to maintain her job until the end of the year when she's going to be forced to look for work. Being a former Orange County Register reporter, I survived layoffs, pay cuts, furloughs. I definitely understand that. Really, what we need to do in the city of Orange is to encourage small businesses. My grandfather was a small business owner himself. One of the things we can do is to eliminate the license fees for small business owners to encourage them to come here, as well as to encourage filming productions by getting rid of the business licenses for them to help them come and increase the sales tax and bed tax rates.
Thank you. Attracting and retaining businesses in Orange, Mr. Grangoff.
Well, as indicated, that's one of the reasons I'm running. I think we need to have a more welcoming environment for business. I had opportunity to serve 2 years as a planning commissioner in the city of Orange, and when you serve on the planning commission, businesses come to you a lot because you're approving different permits, approving different projects and proposals, and that was where I think my eyes were really opened up to the different steps and different blocks that we put in front of business that make it just a little bit difficult to get to that ultimate step of opening their business. So I would like to work with the Chamber of Commerce to develop a committee of business owners to look at the different regulations and make recommendations on what to remove or what's good and what's bad. So I think we need to work collaboratively with the business owners at the Chamber to go through that process.
Thank you. Mayor Smith, next, please.
Yes, well, one thing I absolutely love about Orange is the way that our community supports each other, and it's very important that we support the businesses in Orange. I've been trying to promote a theme of Shop Orange, using our local businesses to buy things and have repairs, to eat here, because all that money comes back to us as sales tax revenue. I've also been pleased to sit on a council that passed a tax sharing ordinance for a return of tax money to new businesses to come to Orange or current businesses that choose to expand. I love to encourage small businesses, as I did all my 13 years on the Planning Commission. My grandfather had an orange grove here. My dad had a business for 65 years. You might be familiar with Smith's Nut House on Tustin Avenue. And we know the importance of protecting and encouraging small business. And then at City Hall, we need to continue to make the process to open business and provide business as smooth as possible.
Thank you. Attracting and retaining business in Orange, Mr. Whitaker, next, please.
Thank you, Trevor. I think one of the things that provides some balance for me on the council is that I have been involved in business. I know what it takes to run a business. I know what my clients have to go through. One of the very first things we did in 2011 when I got on the council was that our council voted to have a consulting company and take our entire community development department and all through the processes. They came back with a multifaceted analysis of what we needed to do. We've since passed 3 ordinances streamlining our processes for permitting. We're going to have more coming on that does that. As Mayor Smith said, we also passed the sales tax sharing ordinance. Another thing that we have to look at is our home-based businesses. So many people in the recession ended up having to come into the consulting world and work out of their businesses. Our business license fee applies to them even if they don't have anybody coming to their home, and I think that's something that we need to do in the next council.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Dumitru.
Thank you. Again, much like Councilman Whitaker was just saying, one of my items I had been asking about for years was actually the elimination of fees associated with home-based businesses. So many of our current thriving businesses in Orange started off in somebody's garage and grew from there and employ people. We need to continue with the steps that our audit of the planning and development section brought forward in streamlining. We need to make sure that we expand our tax incentives and sharing programs like that's in place with Volkswagen of Orange to entice other businesses to come to Orange rather than looking at our neighbors who would love to see any business that's coming to Orange land in their city and create jobs. Fast track our permitting process and make sure that applicants can get results much faster, and make sure that City Hall is responsive, especially to our new businesses and those that are expanding and creating jobs and income in the city of Orange.
Thank you, everyone. And as a follow-up to that question, take another 30 seconds and tell us where you believe the greatest opportunity is to grow the economy in Orange. And we'll begin now with Mr. Whitaker.
Trevor, I think the greatest opportunity to grow the economy in the city of Orange is by enhancing some of our economic centers. So, for instance, over on the west side, we've passed the entitlements for a new luxury apartment complex that's going on in the parking lot where the Doubletree Hotel is. We're also in the process of entitling an apartment complex that is near the Town and Country Tower. Those provide residences for, I want to say, millennials and new urban living that then would actually people who go and shop at the block or other things like that. So,
Thank you. Mayor Smith, please.
Well, I'll reiterate, I think the theory to shop Orange is just priceless because we have a good economy, we have a good income base in our town, and if we would direct more of that income base to the businesses in our own town and really be conscious of that, it would grow our economy. And I'd also like to look at the theory of assisting struggling businesses by encouraging maybe some of them to consolidate with each other and to partner up instead of folding, so that we can draw on the advantage of experience and a good product in our town and not lose those businesses.
Thank you. Greatest opportunity to grow the economy of Orange. Ms. Nichols.
I think the best way to do that is to actually be representative of the businesses, understand them, understand the challenges that they face. When you understand them, you can actually address the problems a lot easier. And then I also agree with Mrs. Smith. I think bringing the community together, supporting the community, encouraging all of our residents and even outside, reaching outside to other neighboring cities to come into the city of Orange and show them the great things that we have to offer here. If they come in, their sales tax dollars work just as well as our own.
Thank you. Mr. Dumitru next, please.
Again, it's supporting our businesses, our retail centers, giving and finding ways that we can expand that sales tax base, emphasizing a real need to look at tourism. We have a major tourism spots that are very, very close on our west side of town, has hotels that we need to make sure that they're filled and that TOT comes in. We also need to look at that West End development and the surrounding those economic hubs and really address the ability to have growth out there and support the local businesses and the money they bring forward.
Thank you. Mr. Fields, greatest opportunity to grow the economy of Orange.
I agree with Ms. Nichols. I think that we need to encourage the small businesses here in Orange, as well as reach out to other opportunities to bring people into the city to showcase what a great city this is.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Grangoff.
Yes. Best way to increase economic opportunity is to embrace the free market and use free market principles. The government can't do it. The government can't pick the winners and the losers. It needs to come from the business owners. It needs to come from the people, many of you that are here tonight, the chamber. When opportunities come to the council, though, like the ones Fred mentioned, we need to embrace them and make sure that they have a smooth process when they come to City Hall. The best thing government can do is make that process as smooth as possible, and the ideas will come from the entrepreneurs.
Thank you, everyone. Next question. This year, the Stanton City Council voted to place a measure on the ballot for voters to increase the city's sales tax to close a widening budget gap. A similar measure was narrowly rejected by a divided Placentia City Council. At what point, if at all, should Orange consider raising its sales tax? And responses in 1 minute, beginning with Mr. Grangoff.
There would be no point that I would support increasing the sales tax.
Plenty of time to spare. Mr. Dimitru.
Again, it's the same comment. The city of Orange is solvent. Their economic stability is solid, and that comes from the past few councils really doing some solid work. And there is no need, and there would be no desire to place a sales tax increase, and I would not support such an item.
Thank you. Mr. Whitaker next.
I agree with the other colleagues up here on the dais. When you have to look at a sales tax increase, you've already failed in your management. Because if you think, I'm going to get another $300 off of every car that's sold on a $30,000 car, what you actually are doing, because everybody knows what that car costs on the internet, that's going to a dealership down the street. And then that $300 that you thought you were going to get, now you didn't get the original $300 on the 1%. So you thought you were going to get $600 and you got zero. And that's a great way to have your revenues go completely in the tank.
Ms. Nichols next, please.
Raising taxes is never a viable option for balancing a budget. I think that the City of Orange has done a great job in weathering difficult times. I would continue to support a balanced budget without raising taxes. I agree with what Mr. Whitaker said. When there's a misnomer that if you raise taxes, you generate revenue, but you just drive people away, and that's why we're last in the nation.
Mayor Smith, please.
I, like the others here on the dais, I would never be in support of increasing the sales tax, and especially if I'm going to promote Shop Orange. If our sales tax went up, I don't think that would encourage the Shop Orange program. So as Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker says, everything else has failed if you've come to the point of increasing the sales tax, and I do not see it as a viable option.
Very good, thank you. And Mr. Fields.
I'm categorically against raising sales tax. I lived in Phoenix for a year where the current city manager of Santa Ana was city manager, and they imposed a major increase on sales tax on food items to balance their budget. It's not right or fair to impose a tax on residents when your city managers and your city government cannot do their job and balance a budget.
On the heels of no tax increases, I'm anxious to hear the responses on this one. According to a recent Orange County grand jury report, the City of Orange's pension obligation for city workers is only funded to 68% of its total liability, leaving $213.5 million in unfunded pension liability. That amount is more than twice the entire annual operating budget for the City of Orange. And it ranks Orange as having the 6th highest unfunded pension liability in Orange County. So what measures do you propose to reduce Orange's unfunded pension liability? Beginning with Mr. Dimitru, please.
Well, currently the city employees went through their negotiations, and a lot of it is obligated by those negotiations on what can be done. And the city employees have all stepped up, and they're paying their full ride now up to what's legally allowed of the city. Any employees that are coming in to the city now under PEPRA, which is a pension reform act that was passed, I believe, last year or maybe the year before, are now obligated. It's a completely different system, so that those numbers are going to change dramatically. Also, addressing the PERS need to smooth the payment schedule out over 30 years as opposed to the 20 years is another method to help offset that unfunded liability.
Thank you. Ms. Nichols next, please.
Clearly, unfunded liabilities are issues that have to be addressed, and Mr. Dimitru mentioned a couple of things that, as we look at the numbers for the unfunded liability, we can actually readdress how they measure out for the City of Orange. I will say that when I was on the school board, we had an unfunded liability for lifetime health benefits that was offered many years back. I was a part of the solution to that problem in terms of addressing and fixing that so that it was a manageable budget issue for the school district, and it didn't create a problem for us, and we were able to maintain a balanced budget. And I would expect that I would be a part of the solution for that problem as well.
Thank you. Next, Mayor Smith.
Well, I'm very pleased to have been on a council for the last 10 years that really addressed the pension liability. We've gone to 100% of our employer labor organizations contributing their full share of their pension. The unfunded liability would come into play if every single employee in the city retired on the same day. We're not planning on that, and therefore, if the liability extends over a number of years, we expect that hopefully the PERS actuary will get a little better. But the main thing we can do is to hold a solid line as we're negotiating contracts and make sure that everyone's paying their fair share and that there are fair terms for retirements that are fair across the board. I am confident Orange will catch up in this way. We are a very fiscally conservative community. We have been for 126 years, and I trust that we will continue to be and to hold this in shape.
Thank you. Unfunded pension liability, Mr. Fields.
This is something that's really concerning. I definitely had the opportunity when I worked for the Orange County Register to cover negotiations between various unions, employee unions in Orange and the city. And in my interviews with various unions, I commended them because they all stepped up to do their part. And I know it's hard when you come in at one rate and your bosses ask you to do a little bit more. They've done that, and I think it's inherent upon the city government to work it out so that we won't have to ask them to come out of their pockets anymore and to come up with a reliable solution. Passing it on to our grandchildren or their children just isn't the answer.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Grangoff.
Sure. The steps that the current council's taken, I applaud, and I believe that that's going to go a long way towards reducing that liability, as has been discussed. I do think, though, that, again, the cost of government continues to rise, and we do need to look at ways that, the CalPERS contributions increasing to something like $2 million in the 15-16 years, so that's about 3% of the city budget, and that's going to have an impact. So where possible, we need to look for opportunities where we can outsource different responsibilities and jobs as they come open, and I think that the city needs to be open to that, because I think that'll go a long way in helping with pension costs and helping the city budget.
Thank you. And finally, Councilman Whitaker.
Thank you, Trevor. The unfunded pension liability is the number one problem the city has. It is the only problem we have that could put the city at risk. Now, I don't think we're going to be at risk because we have prudent management, but prudent management has to be consistent. It was the main reason that I ran in 2010. It's the reason I would like to be reelected in 2011 to help finish the job. In 2016, CalPERS is going to increase our pension contribution $2 million a year for the next 20 years. Now, we only balanced our budget by about $250,000 this year. So within 2 years, we're going to have to find another $2 million a year every single year. One of the things that I've done is that I was the leader in making sure that we put away reserves for the pensions, so we now have $4 million to help us get through that gap until 2018. And in 2018, under PEPRA, is when we're going to have very hard conversations with our bargaining units, because that's when the law then allows us to go ask for more from the employee contributions, and we will have to.
Thank you, candidates. Next question. According to the state controller, in the last 10 years, Orange's spending on public safety has increased 43%. That's far outpacing the cumulative rate of inflation of 27% during that same time period. So please share your thoughts on these rising costs of public safety and what you might propose to help rein them in. Beginning with Mr. Fields.
Covering the city of Orange for the Register, I had a chance to look at the FBI statistics on an annual basis, and they listed Orange as the second safest city in America among its size. Doing a little homework, it actually is the first. Irvine kind of, well, They cheat, yes, they cheat a little bit. So, in moving to Orange, that's obviously a consideration in terms of where I want to live is a safe city. There are costs to that. We have to be able to have enough officers on the streets. We have to make sure that the response time of our fire agency stays within that 4 minutes. If you want to be safe and you want to feel secure, we have to pay.
Thank you. Mr. Whitaker?
I agree with what Mr. Fields said. We have a very safe city because we have our own fire department and we have our own police department. The way that we're going to be able to control costs is by making sure that with the resources we have, they're prudently deployed. So we just authorized a third captain for a year period of time for succession planning transition. That will help us take that budget money and possibly turn it into 2 additional officers to help us get more folks on the streets. But if you take a look at why are we over the rate of inflation, it's not because we are putting too many people on the streets. We actually have a lot of open positions in the police department. It's because of the rising costs of benefits and pensions. And so that's what we have to make sure that we really keep control of, paying people well, but making sure that we prudently control those costs going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Grangoff, your response, please.
Sure. Can't argue with making sure that public safety is the #1 priority of government. So we need to make sure we're providing the first-class services. So if we can save money elsewhere to protect public safety, we should do that. But that doesn't mean public safety shouldn't be looked at. I think there might be ways that we staff that could be improved upon, particularly in the fire department. I think that there's some things that could be looked at to staff in a way that is more affordable without compromising public safety, and I would support doing that. It's an area that's tough to touch because it's politically unpopular, but once you get past the scare tactics, I think it's something that we could have a good public policy discussion of when you bring all stakeholders together.
Thank you. Rising costs of public safety, Mr. Dimitru.
Well, I'm a little excited by this one, obviously, over 20 years with the fire department. But I will tell you, the cost is directly associated, and I disagree with Mr. Grangoff, is staffing is not it. You don't want to have a fire station that's closed, or if something occurs in the middle of the night, like Nampa, where the earthquake they recently had, they didn't have fire engines because they were all deployed. They were already out on another incident, and they did not fund the backfill of the stations, so they had a delay in service to their residents. So you had an earthquake, you had fires, and you didn't have people to go to it, and you can't have that. In the city of Orange, we've invested time, we've invested money, and we have a top-notch fire department and a top-notch police department that has lower response times, and they're doing great service, and they're truly dedicated to protection. We still need more police officers per capita, and we need to meet our resource needs in the fire department. We have equipment that's aging that needs to be replaced, that has to be addressed. There is cost to that, and quite honestly, 43% actually is not that bad when it comes to an increase in cost on the fire service.
Thank you. Ms. Nichols.
Thank you. Public safety is one of the primary important roles for government, and we have a tremendous fire department and police department, and the previous councils have worked extraordinarily well with our bargaining units, our safety employees, and they have worked extraordinarily well with our councils in order to maintain during difficult times. I know the pension is an issue. I also know that there's an issue with overtime, and I think it's really important for us to sit down at the table and look at ways that we can better address maybe the overtime issues. The pensions we've already discussed, so I don't want to go into that, but maybe look at the way we backfill our stations so that we don't shut down stations and we don't put in jeopardy our citizens when there's potential issues, and that we can work together. They're extremely cooperative, and they've shown that, and I think that we can continue to do that.
Thank you. And finally, Mayor Smith.
Well, we all know that the cost of doing business continues to rise in our country. The cost of gasoline, technology has increased with computers and all of the fancy gadgets that our public safety uses to keep us safe. I say that you get what you pay for, and Ms. Nichols mentioned local government was founded for the purpose of public safety so that we could have a fire department and a police department to watch our community. We love Orange, and one of the reasons we love Orange is because it's safe. That's the infrastructure, the underpinning, the foundation of everything beautiful and wonderful about this community, and there comes as a cost to that. I agree, benefits and pensions have to be watched very carefully, but I believe that Orange deeply values the safety of our community, and we have been willing to pay for it, and we will continue to be willing to pay for it.
Thank you, candidates. I'd like to next ask you about public-private partnerships, privatization of services, or outsourcing of city services. These things can trim millions out of a city's annual budget, but they have to be done in such a way that it doesn't impact the quality or the delivery of the services. Do you identify any opportunities where the city, its residents, or businesses may benefit from such an arrangement? And whether or not you do, why or why not? In 1 minute, please, and we'll begin with Ms. Nichols.
You know what, to this point, I could not identify anything that I would recommend outsourcing. I think that you have to be extremely careful when you look at outsourcing because it's not necessarily a bad idea. We have some, our trash is outsourced, we have other things that are outsourced, but you have to be very careful. You have to look at what department, what it's affecting, how it affects our community, and also what the end result is going to be. I know this previous city council looked at the possibility of outsourcing library services. Being the president of the Library Foundation, we were watching that very closely. That turned out to be not something that would have been beneficial to the city of Orange. There would have been a lot of services that would have been lost, and I think they made the right decision in not doing that, and I would have supported that decision as well.
Thank you. Mr. Grangoff, next, please.
Yes, I do support public-private partnerships and outsourcing. I think it's a tool that a lot of cities have used successfully. I think rather than look at maybe, say, a specific department that can be completely outsourced, maybe there's services that department does. I think that the main point is you can't take anything off the table. You really need to have discussions and see what truly is the best public policy. That includes, not necessarily for outsourcing, but when you're looking at ways to make savings, you do have to look at public safety agencies. You can't just take them off the table and say, we want to stay safe, so you can't look at how we can do our public policy better in a more efficient manner. Never want to compromise the services or the safety, but always need to be looking at ways to say, hey, can we do something different here? Does this model work better than that model? So I want to look at everything, and I think that's something that I'd like to do if I'm elected.
Thank you. Mayor Smith, next, please.
Well, we also already have many things in the city that are privatized, and probably nobody really even notices. We do know we have outside street sweepers, our waste haulers, our arborists and tree trimming. We have a lot of billing services that are outsourced, and I think that's okay, but I don't think it's right for us to outsource the things that really are part of our personality, such as our library. And we're so proud to have our police department, 126 years old, our fire department, 110 years old, our own water department. All of those things we take pride with in Orange. It's more than dollars and cents. When we look at our own homes, who are really the best people to take care of our own homes? It's us. We know what we want and the quality that we like in our own home, and I believe that that is still possible in Orange and still what we prefer in Orange, to take care of our own town ourselves. And I do believe that it's fine to privatize on small things that are appropriate, but nothing that takes away the personality of our town.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Fields, public-private partnerships, outsourcing, and privatization of services.
I just completed my master's of public administration, and I had to write a paper on public privatizing. I think that in a situation where you're trying to figure out the best ways to save money, you should look at everything. In fact, I actually took time out to look at one of the things that we outsource that I think that we should actually not outsource, which is the city's slow pitch softball, adult softball league contract. 2009, the city signed a 5-year contract with MLS. The contractor pays the city $47,000, and they also do field management. At 700 teams paying $580 a season, that is $480,000 a year that the city could be making if they did it themselves. So I think that is something that the city should look at in terms of adding funds to service the residents.
Thank you. Mr. Whitaker, your response next, please.
Thank you. Well, we've actually already, as the mayor said, been looking at privatizing a lot over the years. If you go back to over 20 years ago when I first got involved in the council, we had over 900 employees in the city. Today we have 600 employees. In the last 7 years and since the recession, we've allowed attrition to drop down to 600 employees from 700. So over a 20-year period of time, there's 300 less city employees doing city services, but those services are still getting done. That's because in the Public Works Department, we're outsourcing with lots of different construction and contracting companies. We outsource our street sweeper, we outsource, as the mayor said, our arborist. There are lots of different places. We will always need to look at where we can. 20 years ago, when I was on the chamber board, we looked at when the city took the ambulance inside. We were kind of critical of that decision. We recently looked at taking the ambulances back outside. Economically, it didn't work this time, but we'll always continue looking at what we can do to save money.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Dimitru.
Thank you. And much like my colleagues here on the dais, public-private partnerships work just fine when they're appropriate. And over the last few years, we have looked at just about everything in the city, and anything that could be sent out into the private sector has been done. At this point, there is nothing else to privatize. The street, like we were saying, the street sweeping's been done, billing's done, the trash contract, of course, is done, our arborist is done, recreation activities. We have multiple vendors that provide lots of services, even down to the littlest things that you can imagine for the July 3rd show or the tree lighting. Everything's looked at and scrutinized on dollar and cents, and between the city manager, city staff, the elected officials, every penny that is spent very, very wisely here in the city of Orange.
Thank you. Okay, land use, zoning, housing, real hot button topics here in the city of Orange, right? As a matter of fact, in Yorba Linda, there's a recall effort going on as we speak over this very topic. Generally, what are your positions on these issues, and how do you propose to best balance the city's development needs with those of its residents, property owners, and the business community? Responses in 1 minute, please, beginning with Mayor Smith.
Thanks, Trevor. That's awesome that I go first on this.
It was random.
Well, to me, it's pretty clear. I mean, Orange is a city that is 126 years old. Orange has known who Orange wants to be for a long, long time. And we're very clear that we are opposed to high density. We value open space. We want safe neighborhoods where kids can play, people can walk, and we have to protect that by our zoning. Now, we're at a challenging time right now because the economy is improving and people want to build. And guess where they want to build? They want to build in our beautiful city because we're who we are. We have to be very watchful and make sure that new development protects open space, saves open space, at the same time allows new families to come into Orange, but in a safe and sensitive way. I personally am not in favor of high density under any circumstance. I don't want to see 5-story multifamily housing as our neighboring cities have, and I will continue to work to control that density.
Thank you. Councilman Whitaker next, please.
Yes, I am a property rights advocate. If you own a piece of property and you're proposing something that is reasonable and fits in with the community around you, so if you're single-family homes on large lots and you have something that's single-family homes on large lots, I'm probably going to approve it, because I think otherwise you're asking the government to say you can't ever do something there. And if you're doing that, then I think, in my mind, in my reading of the Constitution, that can be a taking. And I don't have, millions of dollars in reserve to go buy other people's property. So, as the mayor said, if a development has all the things that we need for their Quimby requirements, to add park space, to add community amenities, make sure that we've mitigated all the traffic impacts and then impacts in the EIR, and it's responsible and fits within the community. Mixed use doesn't work every place. Some mixed use works on the west side. Large homes and large lots sometimes will work on the east side. And I'm going to be for property rights.
Thank you. Let's hear next from Mr. Fields.
I actually agree with the mayor. I think that really Orange is a town, is a city that is built on low-density homes. You don't see high-rise apartments, 20-story apartments here in Orange. I live on a street where it's all single-family homes. The kids play hide and seek on the entire street. I walked out and there was a kid playing hide and seek in my garage the other day. You can't have that when you have high-rise apartments. You can't have that when you're just building. And I understand, and I definitely agree with the rights of property owners. I worked for Supervisor Todd Spitzer, and we were out in Santiago Canyon talking to the developers and as well as the concerned residents who didn't want developments out there. It has to fit and it has to make sense.
Thank you. I don't think there's a need to repeat the question. Ms. Nichols, next, please.
Thank you, Trevor. I think you said it, balance, and balance is the key word here. It's important when we're looking at developments that we work with the developers and the neighboring communities so we don't disrupt what is the existing part of the community. We have a master plan here in Orange that was revised in 2010. We need to follow that. That was a lot of effort and energy spent in putting that together. It was adopted by the council, and that's our plan. That's what we work with. And so if there are any issues relative to developments going in, let's fall back on what the master plan says.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Dimitru.
Sure. Again, each project is brought forward, is evaluated, and just to be very, very clear, a couple of the project areas that are out there, for instance, the Peralta site, which has been proposed by the school district to build multiple times now, has been proposed to build high-density apartment housing. I'm very much opposed to it. It would have a dramatic effect and on those neighborhoods and would be detrimental. We do need to follow our master plan, and we need to revisit it to include a lot of language that East Orange specifically, that wasn't included when we did it, to have that added. Towards the mixed-use urban use, a lot of that has failed. We've seen it on the west side. Many of the units at the BRE properties, which sit right across from Denny's, those are open. They've never been filled. They sit vacant. So that it's not a viable option. And there's folks on that are outside of Orange that are trying to bring that to the west end of town off Catella. And once again, we'll be sitting with multiple properties that are sitting vacant and becoming derelict.
Thank you. Finally, Mr. Grangoff.
Yes. I'm a strong supporter of property rights. I think that's at the heart of what our country was founded on. And I think it's important that we make sure that we're not letting others infringe on those property rights because when you take away someone else's property rights, they can come and take yours away. I think at the heart of it, when somebody does have a development or a project, there's a process available to them at this city, and they should have the opportunity to go through that process and have a fair hearing and get to work with all those involved and make improvements on what their project is if need be. But I think those things need to be embraced. After all, someone that's trying to build homes or something along those lines is a business. So we want to make sure we're supportive of business and supportive of someone that will try and make our community better. If we say no, 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 pretty soon the new developments and the new ideas will stop coming, and we'll have an aging infrastructure that won't serve anyone well.
Thank you, candidates, but no one mentions Chapman University. So as a follow-up question, how do you propose to best balance the growing needs of Chapman University with the character of Old Town Orange? And we'll do the same response sequence beginning with Mayor Smith.
Right. Well, I would propose to do the same thing that I've been doing for the last 34 years. I'm proud to have had a relationship with Chapman for 34 years. I know you don't believe I could be possibly that old, but because Chapman started expanding in the Old Town neighborhood close to where my husband and I have lived all our married life, I went down to Chapman and started talking with them. It needs to be about balance. Chapman is a tremendous asset to our economy, but our Old Town is also a tremendous asset and drawing card to Chapman University students and their parents. I had the great opportunity to welcome students and their parents for orientation. People come here because it's a safe community. They want their students here. I propose that we continue talking openly, being part of each other's plans for the future, encouraging each other's growth with balance and with within reason. The most important thing is maintaining an open dialogue and conversation with Chapman University.
Thank you. And next, Councilman Whitaker.
Yes, I think we've actually done a very good job with Chapman University. Over that process, over the last 30 years, Chapman now has a specific plan, and then when they need to make changes, they come in and they talk to us about changes to the specific plan. I think one of the things that we've done and we need to continue to do is that every time they want to increase their use, we have to make sure that they increase the infrastructure, most specifically parking. Because parking is the thing that's probably the most valuable and the most rare here in Old Town. It can affect not only the quality of life for university students, but for the residents and for the businesses and the ability for the Old Town businesses to operate. They have a specific plan process that's preserving historical buildings in Old Town. They're doing a very good job with it, and that's because we have this good working relationship and balance with Chapman.
Thank you. Mr. Fields, next, please.
Yeah, I believe that really Chapman University should be looked at as a partner with the city. They provide an incredible service in terms of what they do. They bring in students from all across the country and the world. And really, instead of looking at these people as 4-year visitors or 6-year visitors if they decide to stay for a master's degree, we need to work with the university so that they understand that they are part of the city. And being in Old Town Orange, historic Old Town Orange, that carries with it a great responsibility to take care of the places that they live, to take care of that part of the city. Rather than cracking down on Orange, we need to realize Chapman's here, and we have to make sure that they assist us and we assist them to take care of our Old Town.
Thank you. Balancing the character of Old Town Orange with the development needs of Chapman University. Ms. Nichols.
Thank you. You know, Chapman University is a great asset for our city. With its increase in the population and its rankings, it's brought in a lot more students. We also have the historic Old Town community, which is a tremendous asset for us as well. With the increasing population at Chapman, it brings increasing challenges for our Old Town community. So I don't know what all the challenges are, but I see this as a great opportunity. I think we need to value both entities, and we need to bring all stakeholders to the table and look at ways that we can address the expansion of Chapman as it progresses and mitigate the challenges that it brings to the neighbors so that we're on the same page and then we can find a mutually agreeable solution to the problems that it's creating for everybody.
Thank you. And Mr. Dumitru next, please.
Great, thank you, Trevor. Again, it's preserving and protecting our historic resources. As Chapman gets larger, which it's an economic engine for the city, there's no doubt about it, and it's a very good partner with the city of Orange, but it's still the responsibility of the city's planners and its elected officials also make sure that any growth is done responsibly. As it grows west, we need to make sure that we protect our barrio and the historic preservation that needs to take place there to make sure that as they grow that they're not taking away our city's history and what we built on. They did a great job with the Anaconda company in redoing that. They did a great job with the law school when they incorporated the former school district building into it. And we need to make sure that whoever sits as a city council or whoever sits as city manager or city planners are very vigilant and work together hand in hand to make sure we have the best outcome for everybody and to protect our Old Town area.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Grangoff.
Sure. When I was on the Planning Commission, we had opportunity to approve several projects that they did at Chapman, and what I saw through that process was that Chapman's a very willing partner to work with the city, and the city, conversely, has been very good about working with them. As a council member, it would be my job to make sure that that partnership doesn't erode and that it stays the same.
Very good. For the next 6 questions, candidates, I'm going to ask you to use one of these cards that you have in front of you to give your responses. Support, oppose, or no position. Simply hold up your card to give your response. At the end of this series of rapid-fire questioning, I'll give you each a few minutes to elaborate on some of your responses and provide any comments that you might have. So, everybody got cards ready? And begin. Last session, the state legislature considered several proposals to change the protections of Proposition 13 and create a split-roll property tax for commercial and residential properties. What is your position on a split-roll property tax structure? Thank you. Also on Prop 13. Last year, the legislature considered a measure which would have repealed Prop 13's requirement that local special taxes be approved by 2/3 of the voters in this city and reduced that threshold to 55%. What is your position on reducing the statutory 2/3 vote threshold for these local tax measures? Thank you. Next question. 121 cities in California have elected for charter status, including 9 cities in Orange County, and maybe 10 after this election if Costa Mesa voters approve an initiative. Charter cities have more local control over how the city's governed and are excluded from certain state mandates, but can also be at risk for potential loss of state funding. What is your position on Orange electing for charter city status? Thank you, candidates. This year, voters in Anaheim will decide whether the city will move from an at-large method of electing city councils, like we have here in Orange, to an election by district, where voters from specific geographic areas elect candidates from that area to represent them. Also earlier this year was a bill that failed in the legislature that would have required larger cities, such as Orange, to elect council members by district. What is your position on a district election system for the city of Orange? Thank you. In recent years, several cities throughout California and across the nation have enacted their own ordinances mandating a higher minimum wage or benefits in addition to what state law requires. Do you support or oppose such an ordinance for the city of Orange? Very good. Also on the ballot for Orange voters is a $296 million school bond, Measure K, for improvements of the 4 high schools in OUSD. What is your position on this measure? Thank you, candidates. I'll now allow each of you 2 minutes to expound upon your positions on these questions to which you just responded and address any of the issues that you would like during your allotted time. And we'll begin with Mayor Smith.
Where I put up the no position, I did because I was not fully informed about that particular issue, and I'm not going to just put up a sign taking a guess in an important forum like this. I think it's always important to look at an individual community and the needs of that community. I don't think there's any general answer that can apply to everyone, and certainly Orange, we have a lot at risk if we make rash decisions. We're on a conservative tradition, and like I said, a flourishing economy, which has always been safeguarded and watched. So any of the issues that come up before us, any of the things you mentioned, I would want to deeply study and get the community's input before making a decision on behalf of the people.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Fields.
Thank you. I believe, it's a different experience for me being a reporter and being someone who's running for a public position, because I used to be able to sit back and ask the questions and not have to give my own opinion and to have to hold up a card saying yes or no and only get 2 minutes to explain why is a different thing for me. While I do think that a larger city like Orange deserves districting, do I think it is going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years? I don't really think so. But I do believe in residents being able to have representation. Along the lines of what the mayor said, I would not be, it would be imprudent of me as a elected official to make a decision without consulting the residents. And I think that before we do anything major in terms of changing the demographics or the scope of what we do as elected officials, we need to consult the residents.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Dimitru, your feedback.
Sure. First of all, I will never, ever support an attack on Proposition 13, regardless of how it's framed, disguised, tried to bamboozle the taxpayers. Proposition 13 was instilled to protect property owners from Sacramento and their greedy little paws. So that's just where I stand on that. the at-large districting is actually very important to Orange. Many times we have folks that are in town, especially on our west end, that don't have real good representation. While everybody that sits on the council does their best to really get out into the community and represent everybody all the time, it's good to have a person that actually lives in that particular part of town to really get in there. So it's not a bad thing to have folks that are district, run at large, run in districts, however you want to do it, but it needs to be folks that are from that area. When you have a cluster of elected officials all living right next to each other, how's the whole city being represented to the best needs of the entire city? Towards the Measure K, having graduated from Orange High School, and I'm very, very proud of that fact, there's been no improvement since I went there 20 or some years ago, and it needs to be done. It's been attempted before in the past, but the sad fact is our schools are falling apart, and there's been so much neglect to them over the years through the maintenance funds being robbed that it has to be done now. And it has a direct correlation to our property values. Your property values go up when you have a good school system, so you'll actually see the return on it. On top of that, we want to bring new families to Orange. We want to bring and expand the city to keep the traditions alive that we enjoy now. And the only way you're going to do that is by having new families come here, raising their kids, and having them invested into our school system. And if you have bad schools, they're going to go somewhere where they have good schools. So we have to invest the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grangoff, next, please.
Sure. I think the nature of some of your questions about some of the proposals that are going on in Sacramento really should give us pause. And it was alluded to earlier tonight just about the kind of environment we face here in California, and really puts a greater emphasis on the job of a city council to make sure that amidst all the craziness of California, we can do the best we can to embrace free market values. So I appreciate the chance to opine on those, and I didn't think any of my fellow candidates here would want to support a split roll or anything like that, and it's good that the people that Orange have to choose from are united in those views, so I appreciate that. Measure K was a tough decision because generally I don't support things that are going to cause voters to pay more, but as I've been out there talking to voters, most of them see the need for it. They see that the school system really needs it. Not that schools and public schools need more money, but they need more money for facilities. And the first thing someone looks at when they look to move into a town is the quality of the schools and the kind of facilities those schools have. So reluctantly support it, but I think most people in Orange see the need to bite the bullet on that.
Thank you. Expounding on your positions, Ms. Nichols.
Thank you, Trevor. I would speak to my mostly no positions. I did so on the charter city status. I find that actually kind of intriguing, but as Mayor Smith said, I don't have enough information. Having been on the school board, we had 2 charter schools, and they've been very successful, and so I think that's something that we could look into so that we had under all the details and understanding of it. Also, as to districting, I served on the school board, and we were elected in district areas, so I understand that. We aren't in the city of Orange. I would certainly be willing to talk with the community and see what their interests are, but I think we need to reflect what the interest is of the community in terms of that. Also, as to all the Prop 13 issues, California being last, I know that they were talking recently about a move-out tax, being taxed if you decided to move out of the state of California. Come on, this is why we're last, and this is why we continue to move further down. So we do have to protect the limited amount of tax breaks that we have, and certainly proposition is one of them. And then lastly, Measure K, having been on the school board and being in every school on multiple occasions, I know the state of our schools more than anybody on this dais. I object to the statement that our maintenance funds were robbed. They were not robbed. We actually put more into maintenance than we were required to by law, but certainly the minimum requirement of 2% we did. After 50, 60, 70 years almost, the schools need major repairs, and I support Measure K.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Whitaker.
Thank you, Trevor. The 2 Prop 13 ones, I'm a very strong advocate for Prop 13. A few months ago, our council, on my initiative, passed a resolution supporting Prop 13, opposing the split roll. Split roll is just terrible for business, terrible for apartment dwellers. it would be an immediate tax increase and a suck of money out of the economy. And I'm just very proud that yesterday I was endorsed by the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association for my advocacy on behalf of Prop 13. As for the charter, I took no position. I think the charter can be a good tool for some cities. We haven't needed it so far in the city of Orange, but it's something that you could consider at a different time if we needed more flexibility with respect to spending or city requirements. So that's why I took no position there. With respect to at-large voting, I grew up in a city very much like Orange, historic city. It had at-large voting. We have at-large voting here. I think when you have a cohesive community, at-large voting makes all of us represent everybody. You don't get balkanized into neighborhoods, and I'm just looking out for my neighborhood over anybody else. So as long as we can keep at-large voting and stay within the Voting Rights Act, I'll be an advocate for that. Minimum wage hikes, it's the same as hiking taxes locally. It doesn't work. It destroys your economy and makes it so my teenagers can't get a job. And then Measure K, we absolutely have to invest in our 4 high schools. If you look at the city of Tustin, when they built Beckman High School with Melrose tax, they then passed 2 bonds to rebuild both of their high schools. And you may not like it, but governments compete against each other less like businesses compete against
3
each
bonds.
other. And you have a tremendous number of Orange Unified School District students transferring into Tustin to go to those good schools. They have higher property values than we do. Why? Because their school district is perceived as a better value. We need to invest.
Thank you. Candidates, that's it for the questions, but I want to give you each 2 minutes for a closing statement. And I know you just finished, Councilman, but you're first. It was random.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've been very proud to serve on your city council for the last 4 years. I think I've brought my experience both in community involvement and in business and finance to the council, and I think I've added value. I hope that you think that as well. Sometimes you may not agree with me, but you'll always know where I stand. And I'm not going to just say something up there because I think somebody will like it. I've often had votes where people have disagreed with me, but I think anybody, even somebody who doesn't agree with me, will say that I've been straightforward with them at all times. And I think that's what you need on the council, are folks of character who you know where their word is and that their word is their bond. I'd like to be able to finish the job with respect to making sure we have stable finances and we get the pension reform taken care of. I'd ask for your vote. I am the only candidate endorsed by the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. I won the Commerce Award last year from the Chamber of Commerce. I think I've been a very good steward of our resources. So thank you for letting me serve, and I hope to ask for to serve again.
Thank you. Ms. Nichols, next, please.
Thank you, and thank you again to the Chamber for providing this opportunity for all of us. I want to thank you all also for coming out here. It's not always an easy thing to do. Having served on in an elected position before, I recognize that a very big part of being an elected person is to involve the community. That's one thing I feel that I bring to the table. I'm out in the community. I'm doing a lot of different community advocate things, and I interface with the community well. I bring them to the table. I bring stakeholders to the table. I'm a problem solver. Had a lot of experience with a budget. The school district budget, as I mentioned before, was a $250 million budget. So the $90 million budget of the city is something I feel that I have enough experience to address to maintain a fiscally stable city that we've had for all of these years. I hope that if you have any questions for me, that you talk to me afterwards. I hope to be your next elected city council member, and I look forward to the opportunity to work with what is a current city council and bring our city into the next level and the next plateau. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Your closing statement, Mr. Grangoff.
Thank you again for the opportunity to be with you all here tonight. Hopefully this forum provided an opportunity for you to learn about my stance on the issues of the day, particularly those affecting the business community. When you're voting for city council, not only are you voting for where they stand on issues, you're also voting for them as a person. And I think the thing I'd want you all to know about me, finally, is that I'm somebody that is a reasonable person that is works well with others. I'm not running for a position where I'm the one that makes all the decisions and gets to have everything my way. I'm running to be part of a team of 5, and I'm somebody that is willing to work with the other people that the City of Orange voters have chosen to sit at this dais, and I think guided by a willingness to do what's right for voters, guided with conservative principles, that I can be a successful council member if the voters choose to elect me. This is a great city, and one of the things that I've been looking at all night is the motto, "In God We Trust," which was not there 2 years ago, but it's up there now. And I think holding that motto, the council that abides by that can do a lot of things. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dimitri, your closing statement?
Thank you. And again, to the Chamber of Commerce, thank you again for hosting tonight and helping inform voters, and for folks that are watching it on TV and the multiple times this will run for the next couple weeks. As I was saying earlier, our city deserves leaders that they can trust and that will do the right thing. And my connection to Orange is lifelong. And I hope when it's all said and done that the voters of Orange will join my friends, families, former teachers, supporters. Many have known me since I was a toddler in many cases, just how much I love this city. And much like many of us, as we drive through town and we notice a little thing that changes, or somebody puts a new banner out front, that's something I take great pride in doing. I hope that I'm successful in November, and I would appreciate and ask for your vote for City Council. I'm always accessible. I look forward to solving problems and working with my colleagues to bring forward a stable city with a bright and vibrant future. And in closing, my name is John Dimitru. I'm running for City Council, and if you have any questions, you can visit my website at johndimitru.com, which is JONDUMITRU.com, and you can always click on email me for any questions you have, and generally answer within 24 hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fields.
I want to, again, say thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum and having me here, as well as to the residents who came out and those who are watching at home. I respect Mayor Smith's work in the community, her dedication to preserving the history of Orange and its neighborhoods, and her years serving on the Planning Commission, the City Council, and as mayor. I covered her in her second term on the City Council, and I got to know her personally as well as professionally. She extended me a great courtesy that she probably doesn't even remember, but it really meant a lot to me. I'm not polished. I am really, really nervous, and I'm not a politician. I am someone who went into journalism because I wanted to make a difference. I moved here to Orange. I had no prior plans on moving here so I could run, moving here so I could just be someone. I moved in and I saw things that I didn't like, and I decided to do what I've always done in my entire life, and that's to try to make a change. I saw that the ambulance fees were going up, and I thought to myself, there's got to be a way we can make a difference there. I saw the city was looking at raising the parking tickets, and I go, rather than raising these fees, there's got to be a way that we can look at it. So for the last month and a half, with a newlywed wife traveling across the country with a new job, I've been trying to figure out how we can do that. I've got a lot of plans, and if you want to learn more, feel free to contact me through my website, EugeneWFields.com. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and address you. And I really would appreciate your vote, because I believe I can provide a different point of view on how to make the city the best it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Smith, your closing statement.
Well, I am so pleased to have had your vote of confidence for the last 10 years as an elected leader here in Orange, and I thank you for that. As going forward, if you would elect me for another term for Mayor 2014, I pledge to you to continue to maintain excellent public safety for our city, including our police and fire services, the promise of clean water, and also a strong infrastructure in our roads and our sidewalks. I would be delighted to continue to lead you in celebrating Orange, our community events, our library, our parks, all of our great neighborhoods, our equestrian community to the east, all of our historic neighborhoods, if that means that our neighborhood's over 100 years old, or those that are 50 years, or 30 years, or even 10 years. Each of our neighborhoods has a very valued history, and I strongly believe in our neighborhood strength and cohesiveness in our city. I also pledge to you continued transparency for our city. I think you know that I have an open door policy. I return your calls. I'll drop you a note if it's going to take a while to get back to you, and I will ask our staff to be in touch with you if I cannot be. I'm very proud of my record of response with you, and to those of you I haven't been able to reach in a timely manner, I do apologize, but we're a very open, interested community, and there's a lot of communication there. I also want to seriously remind you to let's shop our orange and build up our economy. I pledge to you to continue working on improving our economy and our fiscal stability even more. And our Chamber of Commerce can be very significant in that, and I do support our Chamber of Commerce and the great work that you have done. And finally, I just want to say I'm Tita Smith, born and raised in Orange, proud of 5 generations here. I want Orange to be home for my great-grandchildren and my grandchildren, and I ask for your vote for 2014. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. That will conclude tonight's forum. I'd like to extend gratitude to the candidates for joining us today in our forum, and as well, a big thank you to the Chamber staff and the city staff for helping to coordinate this event, too. This forum will be periodically rebroadcast on Channel 6, courtesy of Chapman University, between now and Election Day. And for those of you in the audience and citizens on TV, don't forget to vote November 4th. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Trevor. It's very nice. Thank you. Good job. You're a good moderator.
Thank you, Diction.
Cheers.
Thank you, Eugene.
I've got to get my stuff here. Yeah.